What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 215. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today, a pair of my teammates that you always see with me on Thursdays, Michael DeRosa, Coach Scott Parrott. Gentlemen, we have a big day today on this Thursday Quick Hitter show. We got a special guest that will be joining us here in the next 10 minutes or so. It's another big one, a lot to talk about. But first of all, how are you guys doing on this fine Thursday?
You know, I'm actually doing really well. Weather down here is flipped from a week ago from me in a ski cap and gloves to 72 degrees in shorts. So I got to play golf earlier this week, and I may play again tomorrow. So doing well down here. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, doing well up out here. Just doing well. It's always fun talking hoops.
Yeah, you talked about the weather, man. We've had snow. We've had one day, I think it was Monday, we had like 66 degrees, and now it's been cold and rainy. Indiana, I'm telling you, it is a special breed when it comes to weather. It is a special breed. Like I said, we have a special guest. It's no surprise who it is. We put out the teaser yesterday. If you're watching along with us, as always, we're on the YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're live. You'll want to make sure you're following along with us live. Get your questions, comments, concerns, all that good stuff in. We will get to them like normal. Coach Andy Kennedy, head coach of UAB, coming off of a massive conference win the other day against North Texas. He'll be joining us here shortly. It was a process getting him on here, a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk to Coach Kennedy in depth here coming up. But I want to start, we have time the rest of the show. We'll talk about St. John's. There is such a big storyline I want to talk about. But I want to talk with IU real quick because nothing official yet, but a lot of kind of sports writers and people close to the program have been rumoring. We've talked about this a lot as a potential storyline, but Mike Woodson's tenure at Indiana, whether you believe he should stay, go, fire, retire, whatever, it sounds like we may be getting some news on his future coming up. And what a coincidence, too. They welcome in Michigan this weekend with Dusty May. So Indiana is going to be at the forefront of a lot of this. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Is rumors right now, but some of these kind of rumors that are picking up some steam right now.
Well, it's one of those two. Look, I did not. You guys have both provided me with the rumors. I have not seen anything except for one guy tweet there could be Big Ten news today. Well, that doesn't get me too excited until you guys actually said you read some stuff for some people that follow Indiana. So usually where there's smoke, there's fire. But also, until something occurs, I don't want to speak on a man's decision or future or whatever. We'll see what kind of materializes here. I know they're going through a tough year, and the schedule's not getting any easier. I know that.
Yeah, I saw a beat reporter from, I want to say like Arizona heard something. That's what I was when I saw it, when I was like, okay, there's probably some smoke here. And I've gone through the stuff. So we'll see if it actually happens. And yeah, as Coach said, it's weird to speculate on whether or not he ends up coming back, but just it kind of feels inevitable that it's going to end. Just based on results, just based on the fan base at this point. It's just some of the effort plays that IU was shown that just aren't there. Like Umar Ballo sometimes just isn't trying, frankly. That with those things, I could see it, and I expect it to end at some point. And it'll be a very interesting conversation this offseason that I imagine will not get old at any point whatsoever. Because if there's one thing I know about Indiana, the fans are very calm and rational.
Yeah. Well, to that point, let me say this firsthand from multiple IU people today that I consider friends that have followed the program their entire life. Expect, even if it's the smallest chance, there is a bet going on that there will be we want Dusty chant, or he will get a very positive reception in Assembly Hall Saturday. I will put it that much. We'll keep an eye on it, like everything else. Like we talked about Todd Golden earlier in the year, until things become more finalized.
Brad Stevens, and I was about to punch my screen.
No, I think even the most diehard Indiana fans have given up that idea, because if you're Brad, why the hell would you want to come back to college basketball?
I think the timing of this is awful if that's what they're going to do. It's uncomfortable for Coach Woodson if he didn't resign. It's uncomfortable for Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mess. That's a mess.
100%.
It's and then also other news that we can confirm. Leonard Hamilton.
Yeah.
From the last time that we talked on Sunday, it came out, I think it was Monday afternoon, early evening time, that Leonard Hamilton has made it official. We kind of speculated that this may be his final year, especially after Larinaga announced his immediate retirement. Leonard Hamilton will see out the rest of the year, but he is retiring at year's end, which opens up another pretty good job in a really good conference. Coach Leonard's been at this game for a long time. He was a well-respected assistant coach. He was the first black coach at Kentucky. I mean, Joby Hall brought him on staff, made history and broke barriers. He has been phenomenal in his tenure at Florida State, really turned them into a basketball kind of school at times there. Won ACC regular season titles, the whole works. It's not went well in the last couple of years, but man, he's had a hell of a career, and I think we all expected this would probably be the right time to step away.
Yeah, and I think we spoke when Tony did this in November about him and his career, and then Coach Larinaga when he did it a couple weeks ago, and Leonard. I mean, these guys are legends. They're just absolutely monsters. If you whatever word you want to use in the coaching fraternity and in this game of college basketball. So, I think it's appropriate we give Leonard Hamilton his kudos for what he has done, the career he has had, the young men he has affected, the people that he has helped. Just an outstanding career. My tip of the cap to Coach Hamilton, and I hope he gets to finish this out with a couple big wins and gets a last home game with a packed house and they honor him in some way.
This is the best Florida State has been. I mean, not like too long, but like in a little bit. Like this team this year is pretty competitive. It's good to see Coach Hamilton going out on. I mean, just even there's always the thing I was able to do every year with like my roommates who aren't really into basketball. You show them a picture of Coach Hamilton. You're like, how old do you think this guy is? And they're like, oh, he's 40s, 50s. It's like, no, he's late 70s. It gets him every time. Every time. It works every time. But yeah, I mean, this team is good this year, and just thinking back on some of the teams with like Jonathan Isaacs that I grew up watching, Terrence Mann, like those sort of teams grew up. I'm sorry to make you guys feel old, but I just did that. But like those teams were a ton of fun to watch. So it's good to see him go out on his own terms.
Well, he created a really good environment at a traditional football school in a tough league as well. There was a time period there from about 2010 to 2016, 17, whereas almost every year at home, he would get one of, or sometimes both, Duke and Carolina at home, which is, again, for Florida State. That's not easy to do. And look at the NBA players he has put in the league from Florida State. The one thing, Coach, I'll always remember about Leonard Hamilton teams at Florida State is how damn big, long, and athletic they were. He always had dudes who were like 6'9", that had versatility, that could drop down and play the two guard sometimes. And they were just huge. That's why they were really good defensively.
No, I think it was a staple of who they were. And Josh, I think it's a great point. And I know at this time this year, Michael, right, they play very big up front and long. And that's just, he's kind of, that's, every people look, you kind of find your niche sometimes as to what works for you. And that's what he recruited to, what worked for him, and obviously he's had incredible success. And like I said, I hope it ends on a positive note for him. He deserves it, but the game can be cruel, and there are no guarantees. But I know he will put his best foot forward for that team. And so yeah, like I said, happy for him if he's happy with this decision, which it seems he is.
Yeah, and just looking at like this team this year, they have 6'1" freshman Daquan Davis, DC kid. So I'm like defensive minded, but like other than that, it's 6'5", 6'7". They run Jameer Watkins 6'7" at points sometimes. So yeah, this feels more like a Leonard Hamilton team. It feels like this team will get him going at least on the right foot, which I respect.
And that's another quality job that has opened up that could be very attractive to people in a good league. I know ACC's down right now, but it's obviously historically a great league, and there's opportunities. Like if put it this way, if I had the opportunity to take Florida State, especially if I was at a smaller school or maybe a not great Power 5 conference, I look at the ACC and think, man, I've just got to compete with Duke, Carolina until like maybe Virginia or North Carolina State or one of them. Louisville's getting better. So those three teams, you got opportunities to really win in that league. So congratulations to Leonard Hamilton. He does look like he gets to go out on his own. Had a tremendous career. We salute him, and let's hope that for his sake, he ends on a high note here in some form or fashion the way he would like to. But now, let's bring on our special guest today. First time on the show. Cannot wait to talk to this gentleman. We're happy to introduce head coach of UAB, Andy Kennedy. Coach, it is a pleasure. First of all, I'm glad we got connected. I know there's some struggles there. Coach Para was able to talk you through that.
Scott Para, right?
I know.
Okay. When technology happens, you're the first person to ever say that, I believe.
I mean,
Coach,
it was telling me to do things. I got out of practice. I got home, so I've got no technical support. And I was telling Scott I was having problems. I said, "Bro, I did not graduate from Rice. You're going to have to walk me through this thing."
Well, we got the job done. Personally, been looking forward to potentially talking to you for a long time, dating back to when you were coaching Ole Miss, Marshall Henderson, those fun teams. On the SEC network, I always thought you were highly entertaining there. And then you've been a part of, with some really good UAB teams since you've been the coach there. And so it's an honor to have you on. And I want to let's start at the beginning. Just the other night, big time conference game against one of the favorites in that conference, North Texas. And your ball club wins 64-61. Talk us through that game, the atmosphere, and what a win like that does for your team moving forward.
Well, as the calendar flips into February and people's attention start really focusing in on college basketball, you want to put yourself in a position to have a chance to play meaningful basketball in the month of March. We had a rough start in our non-league. Last year we had in this new world of transfer portal and NIL, when I got the job in 2020, 21, COVID, we were all just trying to figure out, are we going to have practice? Did the officials make it? It was just such a bizarre time in our world for everyone. We got through that year. Next year, we were able to pick up some pieces through the portal. The portal helped us in year one with a young man named Trey Jemison, who's a Birmingham native, was at Clemson. He's now with the Los Angeles Lakers. We got a kid named Quan Jackson, Mike Ertl, two kids that are both prospering overseas as we speak, and they were all league players in the Sun Belt. So we went 22-7 in our first year, but it was just such a bizarre year, and it didn't even seem real. Year two, we added a kid named Jelly Walker, and because the NCAA gave the year back for COVID, we were able to bring Mike and Quan along with Trey Jemison back, and we had a run, and we're able to get back to the NCAA tournament. It was an exciting time for us. As a program, it was the longest drought for UAB, who's got a really storied program in men's basketball. They'd had a 7-year drought since NCAA tournament appearances, so it was a great push for us. The next year, we were able to get to the NIT finals, and then last year, we replaced 9 of our 13 scholarship guys. We started a little rugged early, and we were able to find our legs about mid-January. We made a push in February, and we were able to capture the AAC tournament championship. This year, we were predicted to win the AAC in our league, and Scott knows this. The AAC is probably the most poached league in college basketball because we don't have the finances of the Power Fours now, and it's still a quality league. So there's good players in the league, and a lot of guys got poached. We were able to keep the conference tournament MVP and the preseason player of the year, and Yaxel Lendeborg, really a unique story. We were able to keep him, so we were predicted to win the league. We started off sluggish. We lost 6 games in the non-league. All of those losses were a 1 or 2 possession game with under 90 seconds to play. Our inability to defend, we still struggle defensively to stay connected throughout the course of 40 minutes, but we have made improvements. And our inability to shoot the ball from the perimeter, we've really struggled with our 3-point shooting in the non-league. So we come into league play, and we were still trying to find out, hey, man, how can we get this done? Our guys, to their credit, continue to work, continue to grind, and we started having some success. And I say all that to say now we're sitting at 8-2 after the win against North Texas, as you alluded to, on Monday night. And Scott knows this too. When you play North Texas, it's like going to the dentist. And when you lay back in that chair, you're uneasy, regardless of what's about to happen next. You hear all these strange sounds in the background, and they dig up in your mouth. They're trying to have a conversation with you. I've never really understood that, why dentists are wanting to talk to you while you can't talk back. But you've never wanted to swallow more in your life. And as you're going through the process of being in that chair, you just hope for the best, but it's going to be uncomfortable. That's what it's like playing North Texas.
You've had some great games with them too, right? I mean,
yeah, we've had a lot. All of them kind of come like this, one or two possessions.
I remember, like, when I was in it, scouting, and that happened to be the game I was playing one of you two next. And I got to watch that game. It was always such a good game. And then this year I saw the kid made that shot at their place.
Yep.
Right. You guys, I watched almost the whole game the other night, including the whole second half. And I want to talk to you about the end of the game. So you're not a foul up 3 guy?
Yeah, I am. If I just didn't, quite frankly, between us 4, I didn't really trust my guys to execute it.
Okay.
So we stayed connected.
I'm yelling foul, AK, foul, baby. I'm yelling, but you guys played great D. You did a hell of a job. The kids did a hell of a job.
Yeah, they did. And they've got a couple of guys, Aiden Wright, who's a really good player, transfer from Drake. We made sure that the ball stayed off him. And then the rest of the guys we felt okay with. I just didn't trust it just based on the timing. At 10 seconds, Scott, it's a little bit, that's kind of in no man's land.
Yep. I thought if after he took a couple dribbles and got across, but I could tell though you told him not to. So I saw that you weren't telling him to do it. So I said, okay, he's going to play this out. And then the kid picked up his dribble, great wall up, terrible shot. Really good job by your kids.
Yeah, and it's typically not the way that we play. We're averaging about 84 a game. We were held to 64. Again, we struggled from the 3. I think we were 3 for 17. We didn't turn the ball over. We won the areas that we need to win. Points in the paint, second chance points were really good off our offensive glass. We won the free throw line, which is important to us. We're kind of built old school. If you look at us through Ken Palm analytically, we still take a lot of 2s. And it's just the way we're built. I'm not as dumb as I look. I want to play to the strengths of my players. When I had Jelly Walker. When I had Jelly Walker and you had Quincy Oliveira, you shot a lot of 3s and Evie and those guys. But when you got guys that are better in the 2-point range, we've tried to play that way. It's been unique for me. I've had a good career and very blessed 18 years as a head coach, and I've had a lot of really good dynamic guards where this team's built different. So we try to play through Yaks, and as a result, our style of play has changed dramatically.
Yeah. So you give me nightmares talking about Ertl and Jelly and Jameis. I heard, I'm trying to sleep better at night, Andy, not worse.
I bet you do sleep better at night.
Michael.
Yeah. Coach, you've mentioned your star player. It's good enough to hear his name called in June. Yaxel Lendeborg. He's one of 2 players. They showed this on the broadcast in the North Texas game. He's one of 2 players to lead his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, with the other being some kid named Cooper Flagg out there in Durham.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him. I think he's got a pretty bright future.
just maybe. But what is it like coaching a player as dominant and as versatile as Yaxel?
Well, as good a player as he is, he's a better person. And I say that sincerely. He's a really, really unique kid. Crazy story. I'll give you the cliff notes. He didn't play high school basketball. He played 11 games of high school basketball for a number of different reasons. Went to an outdoor tryout for Dominican players. He's Dominican. And somebody saw him and they called a friend of a friend of a friend and got him to Arizona Western Junior College, where he was a 2-time All-American. He'd signed early with Mike Anderson at St. John's, and then Mike got let go, so he became available, and we found an avenue and convinced him that this would be a good place for him. He had a rocky start to his collegiate career, and then about January of his junior year, he started figuring this thing out, and boy, what a special player. He could have gone anywhere he wanted in the country for a lot more money than we can afford to pay him, but the kid never wavered. He wanted to stay. He trusted the vision. He's really a unicorn in this day and age, and I love the kid. I'm glad to see him have success, and I'm glad that the nation is noticing what a good player he is.
Yeah, he was a handful, and I love the positions you put him in, and some of the things you run for him, and then he plays with such, he's such a great finisher, and he's just so tough around the hoop, and then he averages double figures rebounds and 4+ assists. I mean, he's just, he's preseason player of the year for a reason. He's a real player. He's a real player, and the transformation for him, he didn't even know if he was going to be a good Division I player. And so when that got established, and then he starts getting these lauded accolades, now he's top of the scouting report. People are game planning for him. Our inability to shoot the ball the way that I thought we were going to be able to, he has to play in crowded spaces a lot. And as a result, I just want him to continue to play with force and do everything with authority. That's what I preach to him every day. Batman can't blend in. He's kind of a pleaser by nature, which I know absolutely nothing about. And he just kind of wants to stay in his lane. And I'm like, no, dog, you got to lead it. You got to be Rudolph, man. You got to be the head of the sleigh. You got to guide us. And
And he's starting to get more comfortable in that.
Coach, so we talked about obviously the North Texas win the other night, but you go back to the first North Texas game, you lose by 3, and then you go on a run, you win 5 in a row. Memphis gets you, and then now you're on a 3-game streak. What lessons did you learn from? Obviously, we know Memphis. We talk about them all year so far, especially coming out of Maui with that 3-headed guard monster that they have. You go down there and you take one on the chin, but you bounce back immediately with the 3-game win streak that you're currently on. What did that tell you about your team? The fact that they were able to get busted up a little bit, but it didn't phase them, and they get back to winning ways.
Yeah, Memphis is really good. They've got 3 dynamic guards. PJ Haggerty, who Scott and I were both familiar with. He was at Tulsa last year. He was a National Freshman of the Year. He is a dynamic guard who's really improved and is really leading a strong backcourt. And then when we played him, Dane Danger, who had transferred in from Illinois, had been a good player for him, but he certainly had not evolved into what he has become over the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. He is a load in that low block, him along with Musa Cisse, who's been around college basketball for a long time.
Almost as long as Tony.
I'm telling you, and a rim protector. They've got a complete basketball team, and Penny's done a great job. So we go in there really excited about it, and they hit us right in the mouth. We didn't play good, and they played good. That's a dangerous combination. So we were low on that bus ride from Memphis back to Birmingham, but our guys responded. We went to Tulsa, which is not an easy place to play. Great respect for Eric Conkle, who's done a great job everywhere he's been. And our guys responded. Yax probably played his best game of his collegiate career, was dominant in the game, led us to a big victory. And then we come home. We played 3 games in 6 days. That's NBA-like, right? We had a Wednesday, Saturday, Monday turn, all based on television schedules. And we were able to win 3 in a row to put us in a position at 8-2 through 10 games in the league, 1 game back of Memphis. They still have to come to Bartow Arena. So we knew the importance of Monday because, in our North Texas loss, in which Aiden Wright hit a tough shot at the end of the game, we were up 17 points early in the second half.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, man. And they grinded us up. Our inability to score. We had too many turnovers. We're a team that typically doesn't turn it over. And they were able to get out with that one. So we knew the importance of the game. If you want to be in a position to control your own destiny, I tell my guys all the time, if you're sitting around in life waiting for somebody to do you a solid, then you're going to be waiting a long time. You got to go make it happen. And while the ball was in our court, quite literally, we had to take advantage of the opportunity. And I was proud for our guys for responding.
Well, and, Josh is a huge SEC follower. He's a big Kentucky fan. So I know he probably talk a little bit about your days in the SEC.
Of course,
yeah.
And, of course. When you brought up Marshall Henderson, I know you're a basketball Jones. That was 11 years ago now. He finished in 14, so yeah, 11 years.
Was it really?
Yeah. So look, being a Kentucky fan, I've always watched the sport, kept up with it, coach, played all that stuff, but you were one of those few teams, non-Kentucky in the league, that I loved watching because of style of play. And Marshall Henderson's kind of personality like me, not afraid to go on the road, talk a little shit. Like when he did that he had a game winner against Vandy and let them know about it. When you beat Florida in the SEC tournament championship game.
Auburn is infamous where he popped the shirt and he got the 1-finger salute from about 12,000.
And then you won a couple of games in the NCAA tournament. I think LaSalle's the one that knocked you out there. They had
we beat Wisconsin. We beat Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament. We'd beaten greatest game of my life. I'll always say that because I'm like you. I grew up in Mississippi. I grew up an SEC guy. And so when you can win an SEC tournament championship, that to me still is the culmination. We beat Billy Donovan, who had a team that went on to the Elite Eight. We were fortunate to win that game. And then we go to Kansas City, home of the College Basketball Hall of Fame. So we took our kids and we're playing Bo Ryan, who at the time I don't think had ever lost a first round game.
What seed were you?
Pardon me?
What seed were you?
We were 12.
12, yeah.
We're 12-5, and so we go in and we play Bo Ryan. Steve Kerr and Marv Albert were doing the game.
Wow.
Greg Sager was the sideline reporter. I remember these things.
Wow.
You talking about it, crazy, right? And so we take our kids into the College Basketball Hall of Fame in Kansas City where the game was being played. And as you walk into the Hall of Fame, the first picture you see is Bo Ryan. So I was like, boy, this is an ominous night. But we were fortunate enough to beat them. LaSalle upset. Bruce Weber had a great Kansas State team. He upset them, and then LaSalle beat us on the Philly floater. Kid from Philly hit a floater at the
Oh,
buzzer.
yes.
Yep.
I remember it.
And it got weird that year too. LaSalle making the Sweet 16. I like, we could talk for days. I love that whole era too. And I sincerely mean that because of Marshall Henderson. I enjoyed your style of coaching. You were the one non-Kentucky team in the SEC that I watched all the time. And I don't want to bring up bad memories, but that same year you guys had gotten top 25. The Cats went down to Oxford. Nerlens Noel, if I'll spit it out, had like 13 blocks. I mean,
a Kentucky record.
He was nuts. And his injury.
That was our only loss. That was our only home loss. They beat us. I'm telling you, blocked like 13 shots. And he did like 6 of them with 4 fouls. I'll never forget. Coaches don't forget these things. The great official Jim Burr was doing the game, and I was like, one time he had the condor-like length. I said, one time when he swatted down, if you'd have called that foul, he'd have been out for the last 4 minutes, and we could have maybe got to the finish line. And then Nerlens, unfortunately,
toward his ACL. Toward his ACL at Florida, and it completely derailed that Kentucky team. But he was so great at blocking shots, left hand and right hand, because the length. He would leave the floor second. But we're not going to talk about all that. But the Ole Miss team, and then you go to the SEC Network, and I thought sincerely you did an amazing job at the SEC Network because, as I come to know, you're entertaining as hell. And sometimes these sports shows like that, analysts can be too like stuck in the mud where like, we've got to only talk about the X's and O's and like real finite stuff. I thought you brought a lot of personality. I appreciated you on the SEC Network. Did you have a good time doing that?
I did. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I have a face for radio, but I enjoyed my time doing the television stuff. And I didn't take it that seriously. Honestly, my mindset going in, I was going to talk some ball, and I was just doing it like, if it was me and my buddies at a bar watching a game, what's going to be the banter? Like, let's talk a little bit of basketball. Hey, what do you anticipate them doing next? But let's don't get too deep in the woods. People don't want to hear all that. But, let's have some fun with it and give it some perspective. So that was my approach. I did enjoy it. There's many nights that I wish I would have never left television, but I wasn't quite ready to be done at coaching. I'm 56 years old now. I'm in my 5th year, so I was like 51. I wasn't ready to be done. They used to always say, "Well, Coach, why would you do that? In TV, you never lose a game." And I said, "Well, you never win one either." So I still wanted to embrace the grind a little bit. I second guessed that thought damn near daily.
Michael,
this conversation's great. You guys were talking about Marshall Henderson here. It's like I remember him when I was growing up. I'm a fly on the wall. I'll listen.
Where is he, AK?
Yeah,
this dude is dynamic. I could tell we could have a whole hour on him and his story. Pretty incredible.
Israel, last place I knew he was at, and that was a few years ago.
Yeah, he played abroad for a while. I mean, crazy places. This dude now, most people want to get to a good country and stay there and get some stability, not him. I think he played about 3 years in like 6 different countries. He was all over the map. Then he got into coaching. Yeah. Then he got wise and got married and got a real job. As a matter of fact, his wedding was a couple of years ago. This is a name drop, but you'll appreciate it. So, but everybody gets attracted to Marshall, and a famous friend of both of ours and I went to his wedding and actually sang at his wedding. And that famous guy's a little more famous than us four. His name's Morgan Freeman.
Wow. That's wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We sang at his wedding. Now I can't remember much of it. After about 16 in, hell, I was up for it.
Let me ask you this. You switch gears a little bit. We talked about being in February, right? And like coaches talk here for the audience and for Josh and Michael. How are you managing your team differently in February, Andy, than you did in November?
Well, Coach, and this is so odd because I just stated we had 4 games in 9 days, 3 games in 6 days, and now we didn't play for the next 7. So you give your guys some rest. I've only got 11 scholarship guys now. We're at 13. I had 2 that's tapped, and then I've got a couple guys that are freshmen that don't play. So we're in a rotation of about 8, maybe 9. So it was some much needed rest, but this week we need to stay sharp. And so but you got to be smart. You're always worried as a coach that I know I am about, somebody going down on you in one of your drills, and you'll never forgive yourself for that. So, but you've got to continue to get better. Our team needs to get better. So today we had a practice, we're on the court about an hour and 20 minutes. We try not to push it much beyond that, because the games come so quick, but you've got to constantly be in a position where you're trying to get better this time of the year.
Will you give them one more day off before the game Tuesday or no?
Depends on how we respond. We'll turn to ECU, who's our next opponent tomorrow, and really start doing a deep dive and do some things specific to that game.
So just for the audience, so you did stuff just on your team's personal improvement, and now tomorrow you're turning the page to the next opponent.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. That's what we'll do, and we'll continue to work on us, but we'll also do some stuff that are game specific as we get to Saturday, Sunday, because we don't play till Tuesday.
Yeah,
3 days for prep is plenty.
Yep.
But when you have this opportunity, we do a deep dive into making sure that we're self-examining. We do a self-scout after every game, even a one-day turn. We played on Saturday. I've never done a Saturday Monday turn before in my career, and we played on Saturday afternoon. Thankfully, we beat Charlotte. But on Sunday, before we even talked about North Texas, who we then turned around and played Monday night, we're always doing, self-scout, man. We always got to make sure that we're talking about who we are, which I feel is the most important.
Yeah,
that quick turn. Oh, sorry, Coach, real quick.
I just think people get away from that sometimes too. I think I tried the best I could too to make sure we focused on us, as much as we could, because everybody always wants, especially assistants, right? Because they're scouting the next team.
Sure.
And so they're only concerned and consumed with prepping you or me with what's going to be coming before you start breaking it down. And I used to try and slow them down too. Like, let's make sure we're getting better. How are our guys? What do we need to do?
Well, everybody says this, Scott. Everybody says, well, experience is the greatest teacher. I'm not a complete believer in that. Experience teaches you nothing if you don't take time to reflect on what you learned through the experience. So, and as the games come, you've got to constantly be showing guys understanding of the things they're doing well, which we really emphasize this time of the year, but the things that we've got to continue to get better at.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, man, Josh, if you got something else for him, go ahead. If not, we appreciate having you on, man.
No, I was just going to bring up just real quick. You talked about the quick turnaround, like Saturday, Monday, obviously is not NCAA tournament, but that quick 1 day in between is good experience for NCAA tournament. Thought I was going to bring up, but yeah,
definitely. And conference tournament, they don't give you any off days. Then it's one after one after one. And that for us is our path. Our goal right now, we're 1 game out of first place. We still control our own destiny. We've got to win basketball games, stack work, put ourselves in a position to make a run for it. But then ultimately, you've got to find a way to get in that top 4. If you're in the top 4 in the AAC, means you get the double bye. Means you have to win 3 straight as opposed to 4 straight. And again, I'm not as dumb as I look. I know 3 straight's easier than 4.
We talk a lot about double byes, how important they are, and like the SEC, ACC, all these conferences we've been talking about all year. Super important, and extra days rest, a less game to have to play. Coach, I know we all appreciate the time you've given us today. Extra time, probably than what we originally allotted. We appreciate you. Best of luck the rest of the way. I know you guys are hot coming off of a big win right now. And once you make the NCAA tournament, we think there's a good chance of that. Once you make that, we'll try to get you back on if you've got time. If not, sometime in the future. It has been great. We could literally, I feel like, talk to you for 2 hours, have a solo show with you. That would be amazing. But
it's more fun over a bottle of wine, but that's okay.
Hey, no doubt. I ain't got wine yet, but we're working. It's a food chain thing. You got to start. I'll get there soon.
Hey, man,
I enjoyed it, man. I appreciate you guys.
Pulling for you, buddy.
Hey,
talk to you soon.
Scott. Take care, brother.
Man.
See you guys.
Appreciate you, Coach. That was head coach of UAB, Andy Kennedy. Coach, that was amazing. I appreciate you for bringing him on, and you guys are close, because I've always said, watching him coach at Ole Miss on the SEC network, the personality, like he makes you feel, just from that short bit of time getting to interact, he makes you feel like you've been buddies your whole life, and you could just talk and talk and talk and talk. That was awesome. He was great. He was great.
Yeah. Look, Yaxel's a hell of a player, man. And those teams, I had some decent, like we beat, and I didn't bring this up. I don't want to make him upset. We beat Jelly at home the one year. It was probably my biggest win. They were in the top 35 or something, top 30. We beat them at home. Might have been my biggest regular season win. And then we beat them last year by 25 at UAB. That might have been one of the best games my team have ever played. That's how well we played to beat them there, because they're so good. And he does a great job. And obviously, we appreciate him coming on. And a lot to get to. I'll let you do your job here, Josh.
Yep. Let's move on to games we need to talk about. The other part of the thumbnail for today is I put in question mark, and we've talked about this a lot here recently, especially St. John's Big East to lose question mark. The reason why we've talked a lot about the Johnnies. We knew this 4-game stretch would determine if they were to win the Big East regular season championship. Well, it started off Tuesday night in a jam-packed Madison Square Garden. They take down Marquette 70-64. That moves St. John's to 20-3 overall, 11-1 in the Big East with firm control over the league now. They are 15th in KenPom. They are now 24th in the net ranking. This is when as well probably exceeded expectations from when Rick Pitino was hired. I think even the diehard of St. John's fans probably couldn't imagine this type of year that they are having. We talked about, kind of joke about it, year 2 Rick Pitino at schools, how much of a jump they take. This team's phenomenal. Like, they just lock you down. When they decide it's time to guard Michael, it is time to guard, and they're cutting your water off. Look, this is their conference to lose right now. Unless they go on a big losing streak or something, they've got firm grip of it, and there's no reason to think that they won't win it.
100%. And they've got 3 pretty tough games coming up. You go at UConn tomorrow, which is going to be so much fun. At Villanova, who on and off sometimes, if Villanova's having a really good game, they're in, but I don't think Villanova's beaten St. John's in a little while. And then Creighton comes to town. And Creighton's the only team in Big East play that beat them. So revenge spot. But yeah, this St. John's team is really, really good. The one drawback on them is obviously offense, but more so specifically, they don't shoot the ball really well whatsoever, but they rebound really, really well. And yeah, you mentioned the tenacity defensively. They're forcing turnovers. They're in your grill. You don't get anything inside the arc. Anything inside the arc. That team is scary. They're really fun to watch. And they just find ways in these close games. Like they beat Butler by 8. They beat Providence by 2 twice. They beat Marquette in that close game by 6. That game was 50-50 throughout. And then they were down in both the Xavier game that they won in overtime and the Georgetown game, both at home. They were down like 15 points, and they just find a way to claw back and win. And a lot of that is just transition opportunities. Like, they just get steals, leak out, easy bucket. They're fun to watch.
I think it's funny. Like, you talk about a team that has like evolved and found its identity. I think this team has done that. They were, listening to Coach Pitino earlier in the year, listening as 10 games ago, and now listening to him now. Look, they kind of who they are on offense, but they found their identity, and then those kids have totally bought into this, and that's why I said, like, last week on the show, I'm not going against them here. I've learned my lesson, and I finally got one right.
And how about, like, if you are a New York basketball fan, like a lot of them up in that area, and Knicks fans, obviously, you've been clamoring for college basketball to be relevant in your city again. And what we saw the other night at Madison Square Garden, jam-packed for a college basketball game, for the city's team in St. John's to have this type of excitement where they pack out Madison Square Garden again, like, it is a special thing going on in the Big Apple right now. And we talked about conference again. They are 1 game up on Creighton, who will, to Michael's point, they'll have coming up here in this stretch at the back end of it coming up. But there's a real opportunity. If they get by Connecticut on Friday, if they get by them, Creighton and Marquette play this weekend. There's a chance they leave this weekend with a 2-game lead. I mean, look, I think unless there's an epic collapse or something really happens, I think the Johnnies are going to win the Big East. That just sounds incredible to say when you think about the last decade plus of how up and down, sometimes really bad St. John's basketball has been. For them to win the Big East comfortably, like, man, what a job, what a performance. One of the stories of the year, to be completely honest. Like, Pitino, we always knew he could get it done, but this has got to go up there as one of his better coaching jobs, considering the environment he walked into and the quick turnaround already. Incredible job by St. John's just happy for Rick, happy for that fan base, and happy for New York basketball to have the Garden back for college basketball. They don't have to have Connecticut come down and pack the building out anymore. They can do it with St. John's.
Did you hear his quote after the game? People were chanting, "We want UConn." He said they're drunk.
Yeah, I also heard his halftime. Who was he talking? Who was he talking to? Was he talking to
Raftery?
Raftery, yeah. And he said all the missed free throws made him want to kill himself or something like that. Yeah,
that's like the third time he's mentioned killing himself this week.
It's crazy, man. A couple others I want to talk about that happened this week. Tennessee and Missouri last night was a pretty crazy game. Missouri walked into Thompson Bowling Arena and had the Vols down by double digits late in that game, or midway through the second half, or whatever. And Tennessee rallied. Zakai Ziegler did play, give him 34 minutes, 21 points, 8 assists. I mean, just doing what he normally does. But Tennessee had a rally in this game. They found themselves double digits at home to a high-powered offense in Missouri that we talked about that plays the antithesis of what Tennessee likes to do. And Tennessee was able to dig deep, use their defense, get back on top, and kind of suffocate Missouri enough to win this game 85-81. Coach, impressive win from the Vols. Like, they obviously have bounced back from that Kentucky loss midweek last week. Just kind of your thoughts on this game and environment. And I think it really shows a lot of character from Missouri, even in a loss.
100%. Missouri just continues to impress. Just a tremendous job. They had them on the ropes. I think Tennessee got the win because they were at home. I think they lose that game at Missouri, the way the two teams played. And just another great SEC 15-round knockdown, great game of really good teams. So, yeah, impressive job by Tennessee to pull out the win and also continue to be impressed with Missouri.
Tennessee, to win this game, had to shoot 67% from three, 10 of 15. Yeah. They're not going to do that much. And that's what they had to do to win a home game. That's impressive for Missouri. This Missouri team has been really impressive to me. I didn't expect them to be nearly this good, but you're getting good play to Tamar Bates, who kind of struggled in his time at IU. Tony Perkins has just been that really solid leader for them. Mark Mitchell's showing off why he was a 5-star recruit at the time. And then you're getting really good play from Caleb Grill off the bench, who was a dude in his time at Iowa State. Yeah, this team's really good. They're fun to watch, too. They play a really fun style. I like the team quite a bit.
I will wrap up on Tennessee with this. Igor Milicic, the last couple of weeks in conference play, has been really stepping up for Tennessee. His ability at 6'10" to step out and hit threes, kind of versatile and athletic, getting to the rim, obviously digging in, getting some rebounds. He finished with 21 and 10 last night, 5 assists. 6'10" dude to be able to pass the ball like that and step out and shoot. He goes 2 of 3 from three-point line. If they ever get Chaz Lanier right, he played 34 minutes, 10 points, didn't really contribute a whole lot to the game. If they ever get him right with the way Milicic is playing, Tennessee will be back kind of where we thought they would be. But until they get him right, you still look at them in the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, as a team that can easily get picked off. But, yeah, Missouri, even in a loss, super impressed with them. Any other games from this week? I know we went long there with Coach Candy, which is we expected. Any other games you want to talk about? Michigan State, UCLA, I stayed up and watched that game. If you want to talk about that or any other.
Well, I got a semi-bank on it right.
Oh, yep. Yep.
I mean, I said it'd be a little more than 2. So I'm going to say I got it half right.
Yeah, watching that game for the most part, it looked like UCLA was going to punch him in the mouth and really pull away. Then they just couldn't score for 5 minutes. And it's oh my goodness, okay. But they found a way to win in the end.
How about Izzo there at the end? And I'll set this up. It's tied at 61, Michigan State ball. There's only a 7-second difference in the shot and game clock. So you would think Michigan State would run it down as far as they could, get a shot, potentially go up with only 6.5, 7 seconds left. Well, they do run it down some. Jackson Kohler gets a good look from right around the rim, misses a little baby hook there, but chases his rebound down. The clock resets. They could hold it for the last shot, which is what Izzo wanted them to do. Back it out. Let's call timeout if we need to. Whatever. Let's make sure we get this last shot on the road. And Kohler, for all of his experience, decided to go back to the rim, misses another shot. UCLA gets the rebound. They come down, call timeout. Eric Daly hits a crazy double pump where over Cohen Carr, I forget who the other Michigan State defender hanging around the rim was. crazy bank shot. They win, coach. Izzo, after that shot, when you say clears the rebound, calls timeout, he went over to Jackson Kohler and ripped him a new ass, as he should have for a veteran dude who knew better, because you at least, you may not make it. You may go to overtime, but you get the offensive rebound. You got to run it down.
Do it. Correct. Yeah. You hate to just throw the kid under the bus here, but there's no excuse. I mean, he has to know better. You have to get the last shot there. You have to dictate what happens. And that's why, look, Izzo's Izzo. It's why he's in the Hall of Fame and why he's so great. Like, he told he's not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah. And I guarantee you the next time that kid's in that situation, he will handle it right. And that may win him a game somewhere down the road, but that definitely cost him. It was a bad one.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of just befuddled because he's a vet. You understood if it was a freshman, but veteran kid, I mean, I guess he was going to try and make a play, but you got to run that back out and take the last shot or go to overtime. You either win or go to OT in that situation. Any other ones from this early week? I mean, Auburn killed another.
Dusty had a big one.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about our guest from Sunday, Dusty May. We previewed it.
Talk about your guy in that play that you sent, Danny.
Oh, my goodness. Danny Wolf is special. Yeah, that game was really good. Like, Oregon made it competitive late, but Danny Wolf is a 7-footer. He's dribbling past, I don't remember who was guarding him, but I think it was like a guard. I think it was like a 6'5", 6'6" type guard. And he's dribbling by him. He goes for a spin move, takes it back, resets, half spin, step back, jump, 3-ball, money 10. For a 7-footer. Danny Wolf, the way they've unleashed him is just so much fun to watch. It's crazy. 7-footers don't do that. They don't do that. The guys who do that are playing in the NBA. That was ridiculous.
Yeah. Dusty gets a big one just after we talked to him on Sunday. We continue kind of the train of good luck. You come on this show, you followed up with either big time recruit or big time win immediately after. So I'll continue to say we are good luck. If you're a head coach, come on and talk to us. You're going to win a game. Also, I almost forgot about this one. Monday night, we had Kansas and Iowa State top 15 matchup in the Big 12. We talked about the implications, who needed it more coming in. Iowa State had lost 2 in a row heading into Fog Allen. They had won the first matchup a couple of weeks earlier. Kansas needed a win badly, and they got one 69-52 in this matchup. Coach, that drops Iowa State to 3 losses in a row, all without Milan Momcilovic. It looks like that loss. It took a couple games because Iowa State was winning immediately after. But now losing 3 in a row, they obviously miss his production and his versatility. If you're Iowa State, 3 tough games, obviously because the Big 12 is really tough. But I think in order for them to hit their true ceiling that we saw earlier in the year, they have to get him healthy.
I think you're right. I think we talked pretty much at length about that game about, my read on it was, who was the more desperate team. We certainly found out how hard it is to win in that building. And, Kansas, put it on them, but you're right. Iowa State misses him, but they'll regroup. They're still a really good team. And, I think hopefully he comes back here very soon. So we'll see.
With Iowa State, especially without Momcilovic, so that definitely adds something. But their half-court offense these last few games has not been pretty. It really hasn't been. Like, a lot of their looks against Arizona came in like transition, or Keyshawn Gilbert just kind of blown by a defender. But they just haven't done a lot. And in this game, they really couldn't get anything in the half-court. It just didn't look the way it did early in the season. So they'll get Momcilovic back. We'll see some of that stuff. We'll see if they adjust and how they can kind of fix this issue. But their half-court offense has not been pretty in this losing skid.
3 of 21 from the 3-point line. They get 11 from Lipsy, 11 from Gilbert, only 7 from Curtis Jones, who his hot streak maybe is starting to cool off a little bit. They got 11 from Joshua Jefferson, but Hunter Dickinson still not Hunter Dickinson, but he did get 14 and 9, 4 blocks, so he was better effort-wise than what we had seen, which is a sign of improvement. But honestly, guys, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Kansas's best player this year has been Zeke Mayo. He gave them 17, 5 of 6 from the 3-point line. Without Zeke Mayo, this offense would really struggle because he's like their one proven shooter that you can give it to, and you're like, all right, if he takes 8, he's probably going to hit 3 or 4 at least. And he's like the one guy that can really shoot it right now, and he's been a tremendous pickup for him. I think he's been their best player this year. Do you agree with that, Michael?
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'd go out to say he's been their best player, but he's definitely been, I mean, the most important, like they need him to be good because AJ Storm, because Rylan Griffin really haven't hit that stride. They really need a guy like Zeke Mayo to be that guy, but I don't know if I would pick him, Harris, or Dickinson. It's a toss up to me.
I think, that 14-9-4 from Dickinson's what they're going to need. I mean, yeah, it's not 25-14, but 14-9-4, they got to get that as consistent numbers from him.
Yeah, and the rim protection, 4 blocks. It's an improvement over what he has been. You look real quick at the Big 12 conference, Houston and Arizona 10-1. They're starting to get separation. Texas Tech 9-2, hanging around. But then Kansas, Iowa State 7-4, kind of losing grip. So that was huge for both teams, especially Kansas, if they're trying to hang around. As Coach Kennedy talked about, we've talked about that double bye is so important in these conference tournaments. Kansas currently with that win sets 4th over Iowa State right now at 7-4 in the Big 12 conference. So we'll see how that plays out. There was one other one I was wanting to touch on just real quick, and I've forgot. Do you guys have any other ones you want to touch on before we move on?
I'm good.
Yeah, same here.
Perfect. Let's move on to this weekend's action. And I think I'd like to start with what seems like should be the game of the weekend. And that would be in our ECB poll, number 6, Florida on the road at number 1, Auburn. Auburn, a machine, 21-1, the number one offense. We know who Auburn is. They've got the 1 loss on the year on the road against the number 2 team in the country in our poll, Duke. This is a phenomenal Auburn team and a great home court environment Florida is about to enter into at the Jungle. But if there's one team, Coach, I think maybe the remaining schedule that could really go in and give Auburn fits, it would be Florida, but there's a contingent on that if Walter Clayton Jr. plays. He did not play the other night against Vanderbilt when Florida beat Vandy at home. They need him to be healthy in order to go in and win this game. But if he plays, the style in which they play, fast up and down, they offensive rebound at an incredibly high rate. They shoot the hell out of the 3. If he plays, I think Florida could really make a game out of this. What do you think about that?
I agree. It's so hard because we've talked about so many of these games with key players that are questionable. His status certainly will dictate, A, if Florida can win the game, or B, how close they can keep it. If he doesn't play, it makes it really hard. But I'm gonna say either way, he plays or doesn't play, I say Auburn's too good at home. They're gonna get him.
Yeah, I want to see how those, because one of the, I guess, flaws with Florida, so to speak, like it's not a flaw, it's very clear in design, for lack of a better term. They're really small at guard. Like Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton, they run like 3 guards a lot of the time. And like it works in some games, but I don't know how they're going to do against the length of this Auburn team. Like a Chad Baker-Mazar, I think kind of shut the water off some of those guys. So that's definitely something that's interesting to me. And on the other end, are they also going to be able to offensive rebound as well against a team like Auburn that is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger? So I'm really interested from the matchup perspective of this game. I'm also going to pick Auburn at home. I think blindly, if I just picked Auburn in every single big game for the rest of the season, I'd end up well above 500. So I'll do that.
Look, I will say this, and you're absolutely right. I'm going to go Auburn as well, especially at home. If this was in Gainesville, I may pick a small upset here, but Auburn, I'll pick the win at home. But I will say this. It will be interesting, especially the way Ruben Chinyele has been playing this year. Physical. Johni Broome, in the past, I know it's different this year. He's playing in a National Player of the Year level. But in the past, he's still kind of a wiry 7-footer. Chinyele is a monster. Mm-hmm. If he can get into Johni Broome's chest and really kind of push him around a little bit, that could be an interesting matchup to watch here. If Chinyele can bully up Johni Broome a little bit. But guarding him out on the perimeter is going to be a nightmare too, especially the way Johni Broome's been shooting the 3 ball. So we all go Auburn there. Let's go back to the Big Ten. Also this weekend, Oregon travels to Michigan State in a Big Ten clash. Both these teams at the top. Michigan State still leading the conference, Coach. Oregon coming off the loss to Dusty May's Michigan Ball Club the other day. Michigan State coming off back-to-back losses out there in the City of Angels. I think this is a good spot for Izzo to get the attention of his team, kind of correct the wrongs that they had out on the West Coast, and get a big-time, another quad 1 win and keep pace at the top of the league.
I agree with you. I don't have a ton of confidence of Oregon, especially on the road. I got the Fighting Izzos.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon has lost 4 straight, 5 of the last 6. I think it'll be 6 of the last 7. I think an interesting aspect of this game is that both teams really want to score at and around the bucket. They don't shoot a ton of threes, so they're not going to be getting a ton up. But yeah, I just kind of think Michigan State does what Oregon wants to do a little bit better, and they're at home as well. So
yeah, I'm going Michigan State as well. Coming off back-to-back losses, I think Izzo I think he's got their full attention. We'll put it that way. Let's go. We mentioned just briefly talking about St. John's, but a big-time Big East game coming up on Saturday. Marquette travels to Creighton. They go to Omaha. We know how tough that building is. Creighton has found their footing. Whatever struggles they had at the beginning of the year, they have kind of course corrected now. They have won 8 in a row since the Marquette loss back on January 3rd. They get them at home and a chance to split the season series. I'll put it this way. The way Creighton has found themselves, the way that they are able to score the ball now, seemingly, and being at home in that environment, I think Creighton gives Marquette back-to-back losses here. And I just don't know who Creighton – in this matchup, Marquette is going to have to stop Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's coming off of a big game the other night. I don't know how they match up with him. If Creighton can get out to an early lead, that crowd will propel them because it is a really good home court advantage. I've got Creighton winning this game and putting Marquette in a little mini slump here.
I agree with you, Josh. I'm agreeing with you again. I like Creighton. I think they found their kind of identity. They're playing with confidence. Kalkbrenner's playing at an all-American level. I got Creighton.
I'm going to punch back. I think Marquette matches up pretty well in this spot. And granted, Marquette, I mean, just since New Year's Day, Creighton has been the better team. Like Marquette has kind of really slumped, but I just think they have multiple guys that can throw in Ashworth. He can kind of turn his water off. I think Kalkbrenner's going to get his, but the way they kind of like Marquette kind of doubles down a little bit is kind of interesting. I just think they match up pretty well. I think Marquette could actually get this spot. I'm going to take Marquette to get a huge road win and one that they desperately need, because if they lose this one, they've lost a couple straight. They went from really being the Big East title favorite to just, I mean, the 4th best team in the league. So they need this one bad, and I think they get it.
Look, and talk about a potential opportunity for Creighton. You told us back on when they were 7-5 after the loss to Georgetown that they would be here potentially with a chance to take the lead in the conference these next couple games. They've got Marquette, Connecticut at home. Then they got St. John's. They got a real chance now. We talk about St. John's. They got a real chance to step up and win this league as well. Hell of a turnaround by Greg McDermott and his ball club. A couple others I want to touch on real quick before we get out of here and start winding down. Duke, number 2, Duke goes on the road to play number 20, Clemson, in an ACC clash. One of Duke's last remaining big games in conference that can really triple them up here. Clemson's got a great home court advantage when they're rolling. We've seen that already this year with the win against Kentucky and a couple other games. Michael, I'll come to you first. Is this a kind of not a trap game, but is this an opportunity to see Duke finally take an ACC loss?
Absolutely, it's an opportunity. I'm just not going to pick it. I just think Duke has so much length. I think they're really going to be able to bother this Clemson team. I think this is going to be a competitive game, but I just think Duke will kind of suffocate them defensively. I don't think Clemson's going to get the same quality of looks that they've gotten against other teams. And Clemson doesn't really get to the free throw line. Duke's not going to foul him. Duke's really long. Duke's not going to give him anything inside. I think Duke will be able to rebound against an Ian Shefflin, which is obviously much easier said than done, but I think they have the talent to do it. And I just think they're going to find buckets on the other end. I think Duke matches up really well, frankly. I like Duke here.
I will save my pick.
Oh, I love it. I love the teaser. I love the teaser. I'll say this. Home court environment will be incredible. Like I said about Creighton, a hot start to get that crowd engaged early will be very, very key for Clemson in this game. The other thing, Clemson is really good at forcing turnovers. If Duke, I know they've course corrected and they've been on a roll ever since that Kansas loss, their last loss of the year so far. But Kentucky, Kansas, late games, they turn the ball over. If Clemson can get after them and force them, especially some live ball turnovers, they will control the pace of this game, slow it down to a crawl almost. And if they make the big shots, I think watch the turnover battle. If Clemson can force 10 or more turnovers, I think they can win this game. But I'm going to be with Michael. I'm going to pick Duke to win this game. But I think Clemson is going to make their, as the saying here in Indiana and kind of a redneck saying, Duke's going to have some butthole puckering in that game. I think Clemson's going to make it very uncomfortable for them. Last one, just real quick. You've got Texas A&M on the road at Missouri, a top 20 matchup. Missouri coming off the loss. A&M's been playing really well here lately. Coach, who do you got in this one?
It's at Missouri?
It's in Missouri, yeah.
I'll take Missouri.
I'll go with you. I think the offense, A&M's seen teams like that already on the road. Kentucky plays this kind of similar up and down style, shooting a lot of threes, and they didn't handle it very well. I know they didn't have Wade Taylor in that game, so it made a big difference. But A&M needs to slow the game down, be physical, get rebounds. If Missouri can get out to a hot start making threes, I don't see A&M matching point for point. Give me Missouri at home.
Yeah, A&M is a really good offensive rebounding team. Missouri doesn't rebound well defensively. I think that is interesting. But on the other side, A&M gives up a ton of three-point attempts, and I don't think you can do that against a team that shoots it as well and as willingly as Missouri. Round Missouri here.
Yep. Let's start rounding this out. Let's go to shout-outs. I've got a couple. I hope I'm not stealing anybody's here. If not, we can share it. Yaxel Lendeborg, I mean, coach was just on with us. He's been phenomenal. 17 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals in the win against North Texas. One of the candidates, probably a leading candidate to be mid-major player of the year. He has been awesome so far in his career, especially this year. Big double-double game in a big-time win over North Texas. I got a couple SEC here on mine to round my shout-outs out. Blue Cane from Georgia. They blew out LSU the other night, 81-62. Blue Cane is a guard. He's not a strong guard. He is there to do one thing and one thing only, that's shoot the three ball. But in the blowout win against LSU, 10 points, 10 rebounds for a double-double. That is impressive for a slight guard to get down and find himself getting 10 rebounds. Super impressive by Blue Cane to help out on that end. And I'll combine this last one. John L. Davis has found himself finally. The absence of Boogie Flan has made him more of a focal point, and whatever reason kind of unlocked a little bit of the FAU John L. Davis we all expected. He drops 24 in a win against Texas last night on the road. Arkansas, 2 in a row. They're starting to maybe figure things out now, and I'll pair that with John Calipari, who, for all the shit he's got from me and others, they are starting at least to look like a team who is trying to get back in NCAA tournament contention. I know in some places they're back on the bubble, on the wrong side, but they're back on the bubble. Incredible turnaround so far. We'll see if they can continue the momentum. I'll tell you this much. If they get Alabama at home on Saturday, which they do play, I'm saying if they get the win and make it 3 in a row over 3 quality teams like that, I'll officially say Arkansas has turned the corner. But nonetheless, John L. Davis, Arkansas, John Calipari as a whole, those are my shout-outs.
Go ahead, Michael.
I got 3 quick ones, 2 shout-outs, and then one thing I wanted to mention because I scrolled up on it this year. One, Dylan Harper last night was excellent. In the win over Illinois, he had 28 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 4 steals, and was really, really good defensively. Obviously, with the 4 steals ties into that, but he was just annoying those Illinois guards that have been really, really good this year. Dylan Harper is an awesome player, so this isn't like a crazy shout out, but shout out Dylan Harper. Last night in the Belmont Bradley game, Belmont goes on the road and wins. Jonathan Pierre hits a layup to win the game. Belmont got up like 10-ish late. Bradley found a way to come back, forcing turnovers, getting buckets on the other end, hitting shots. And then Jonathan Pierre just made a play. He decided, I'm not letting my team lose this game. And that's exactly what happened. And lastly, shout out Jonathan Pierre. And lastly here, Alabama's scheduled to end the year. Do you guys know this?
I've seen it briefly, yeah.
The last 3 games at Tennessee versus Florida at Auburn. Good luck.
It's like their preseason schedule.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to have the hardest schedule in America as a totality, right? I mean, it's brutal.
All right, I got 3. First one, shout out Coach Jamie Dixon on win number 500.
Oh, congratulations,
I've known Jamie a very long time. And have tremendous respect for him. And boy, what a big number that is. Congratulations on number 500 for him. I've got a shout out to SMU. 4 wins in a row and 7 out of 8 to elevate them to the top 4, I believe, there in the ACC or right on the cusp. So they're playing great ball when they need to the most.
39th in net too. They're up to what would be a quad 1 now. So 39th
and lastly, back to the Missouri Valley, Michael, you kind of touched on it. Boy, 4 teams up there are playing well. And I'm gonna give Northern Iowa the shout out. They've won 4 of 5, but you got Belmont, Drake, Bradley, them, even Rob's team at Illinois Chicago. I mean, that's a top half of that league is really good, man. Really good.
The Valley,
Northern Iowa.
Northern Iowa lost Leon Boyd, who's a key defender for them fairly recently. They lost the first game when he was out. He was announced out. Then that first game they lost. And they found a way to just kind of defend without him. Impressive. Shout out to them.
The Valley is always really competitive, so no surprise there. Let's finish this thing off with Bank One. I know we did reverse order this time, but that's okay. And I'll go with mine. I think on Saturday, we put St. Mary's in the top 25 this week, finally in the ECB top 25. They came in at number 20. People are high on them after beating Gonzaga. They're on a roll. They go to Oregon State on Saturday in a game that I think is very losable to them. Oregon State's 45th in offense in KenPom. They don't play a high tempo, but they score effectively in the half court, shooting the three ball at 37.2%. You look at their offensive numbers, they're very good. In like the top 50 in most major categories on the offensive end. They're 66 in KenPom. I think this is a bad spot for St. Mary's if they can't get the game slowed down to an absolute crawl and play behind their defense. Oregon State has potential to bury a shit ton of threes on them. Give me Oregon State upsetting St. Mary's Saturday night in Corvallis. Bank on it.
I am going to say Duke is not going undefeated in ACC play.
Ooh.
They go down. Is it called Little John? What's that place called?
Yeah, Little John Coliseum, yeah.
In Little John Coliseum, the Clemson Tigers pull off the upset. Bank on it.
I love it. I love it.
All right, I've got two. I'm not like too locked in on. I think I'm just gonna go with this one. On KenPom, they have this game as a 1-point loss for the home team. They have Texas going into Vanderbilt and winning. That's not going to happen. Vanderbilt's going to beat them by 10 plus. Vanderbilt's going to take them easy. I don't think that game's all that competitive. Bank on it. Go Commodores.
I love it. And then I also love these comments. Shout out Linda Riley here, said love these podcasts. We appreciate it very much. So, and I hope you guys.
Hey, that's my mom.
Oh, well, shout out to your mom.
Shout out to Linda.
Shout out to Linda. We appreciate it. That's cool though. We do love these comments, and we appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Really fun show for another Thursday edition of this. Coach Kennedy, we appreciate him coming on. That legitimately, if we had the time, could probably go 2 hours with him. That was a lot of fun. But wrapping up for today, for all of us here at ECB, we hope you guys enjoyed this. Go leave a like, follow, subscribe on all of our socials, on the YouTube channel. Let people know about us. We're doing some incredible work right now. But until Sunday, when we get to come back and do it all over again and talk about all these games and actions and upsets potential and all that, we will catch you guys down the road, and we will see you Sunday. Peace.